The AAA video game bubble has burst. I don't think this is true entirely, but I know why they're saying it. Here we go. Let's watch it.
The video game industry is currently in the thralls of a paradox.
Yeah.
For players, it could be argued we're in one of the greatest times for gaming.
I agree.
There's incredible breadth of choice across consoles, handhelds, and PCs made ever more accessible through gaming subscription services like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. But from an industry perspective, things could not be more dire. More and more studios seem to be closing, original IPs are being scrapped mid-development.
Well, I mean, like, this is... the thing is that... I mean, bro, she was so... Why didn't they not... They really should have just made that go... Damn. That's... What the fuck? And so anyway, I think that's because the studios were over hiring. They have a bunch of people in there. Like, this is a big problem that I think a lot of people in corporate have, is that they just bring in more and more people. Just more and more people. And eventually you have, like, such a large component of the actual, like, of the company that doesn't actually contribute to the product. Like, they're not doing anything for the product. They're not improving the product. They're not making it better. They're not even helping the product. They're just there.
IPs are being scrapped mid-development, and vast legions of game developers, programmers, artists, and animators have been cut loose. To put it simply...
Well, like, I mean, look, can't we just talk about the fact, like, who the fuck wants to do this? What is this? Like, in between, like, a Pride rally, Burning Man, and Mad Max? What the fuck is this? Like, what kind of stuff? It doesn't make any sense. It's weird. Yeah, who does this?
Animators have been cut loose. To put it simply, the AAA video game bubble has finally burst.
Yeah.
Across the past 2 years, over 23,000 jobs in the video game industry were lost, with a staggering 6,000 in January 2024 alone. Over 30 video game development studios have ceased operations, including Arcane Austin, Volition, and most recently, Firewalk Studios.
You want to know what they all have in common? Is that they're Western development studios. Capcom is hiring people, and From Software increased their wages. The problem is that AAA Western gaming studios are infested with like 3 or 4 different types of rot that they seemingly can't get rid of, and it's killing their games. The fact is that Monster Hunter is going to be a AAA game, and it's going to be massively fucking successful. Path of Exile 2 is a AA game that is better than basically any AAA game. Let's be real. Like, it is Western American, especially American, and a lot of European game developers. They are the ones that have no fucking idea what they're doing. That's the real problem.
What's worse is this trend only shows signs of continuing rather than diminishing. So how did we get here? Well, some analysts have concluded these closures and redundancies are a necessary remedy to companies having overextended themselves in response to inflated demand in the market during the COVID-19 pandemic. While that's undeniably a factor, that's just one of many issues that have been gestating for years within the AAA project bubble. Just 5 years ago, AAA projects' average budget ranged from $50 to $150 million. Today, the minimum average is $200 million.
Jesus.
Call of Duty's new benchmark...
So it more than doubled or quadrupled in 5 years. Well, where's that money going?
Where's $300 million, with Activision admitting in the Competition and Market Authority's report on AAA development...
And also, like, here's another thing. I'm gonna just say it. Like, you know who plays games like this? Guys play games like this. They do. Girls don't play games like this. Some do, sure. But this is mainly a guy game. And you need to stop putting girl boss characters in games that are made for men. Because there's a big difference. There are games that are made for men and games that are made for women. Every other form of media has this and acknowledges it, but somehow in video gaming, we have to pretend like it's not real. It is obviously fucking real. So they keep making content for, quote, everybody, and nobody wants it. Girl bros, yeah, it's ridiculous. Girl boss is fine if it's demonstrated. Well, yeah, but the Resident Evil lady, like that, who's talking about, she was really hot. That's the main thing. And also, she was like the villain, and like it wasn't even you. What's that, Stellar Blade? Yeah, Stellar Blade character is really hot. Like Stellar Blade is a game that's made to appeal to men. The people that made Stellar Blade made that game, and their target audience were men. Yeah, some girls play Stellar Blade, they like Stellar Blade, but it's a guy game. For sure. The Gooners, yeah, absolutely. And this is part of the rot that AAA, like Western AAA studios have, is that they do stuff like this. No, like, this is like, what the fuck?
Authorities report on AAA development that it now
off.
takes the efforts of 1.5 studios just to complete the annual Call of Duty title. But it's far from just Call of Duty facing ballooning costs. In the same CMA report, an anonymous publisher admits that development costs for one of its franchises reached $660 million, with $550 million of marketing costs on top, which makes it a $1.2 billion game.
Wow.
To put that into perspective, Minecraft, the world's best-selling video game of all time, only broke $3 billion last year, and keep in mind that's what it made since it launched way back in 2011.
Yeah.
The realities of these budgets mean entire publishing houses are massively...
To be fair, I could see that data being not completely relevant because of how much merchandise and media that exists that uses the Minecraft IP. You know, it's like, you know, the whole George Lucas, why is he the richest director, right? But I don't know.
Overstretched and are now desperately facing the consequences. If their developers' huge projects don't make money immediately, they gotta go. Sega's sci-fi shooter super game Hyenas was in development at Creative Assembly for 7 years, and just as it was publicly playable...
Well, this is, again, like, I have to say, like, I mean, stop making characters with ugly female... Like, if you make a game with an ugly female character, I will automatically assume your game is garbage. Because nobody wants that. Women don't want that, and men don't want that. Straight up. Like, I don't even understand how this is even a conversation.
First time via alpha testing, it was promptly canceled. The reason? Sega preemptively concluded that Hyenas couldn't make its money back. Blizzard's survival project Odyssey had a similar trajectory.
Yo,
Odyssey
look at this, bro. This is the most retarded, cringe, millennial shit that I've ever seen. This is so obnoxious and weird. Like, really? Like, I mean, what the fuck is this? It's a children's game? I guess so. It's also just ugly? Yeah, it's just so weird.
Couldn't make its money back. Blizzard's survival project Odyssey had a similar trajectory. Odyssey would have been the studio's first new IP in 8 years, and given the market's love for games like Minecraft and Rust, such a gaming titan should have undoubtedly made waves with this project.
No.
When Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, though, the project was swiftly killed with little reason publicly given beyond inconveniences in switching engines to increase player count on the server.
Guys, Overwatch 2 is a joke. Heroes of the Storm was a joke. Diablo 4 was a joke. You really think this game was good? Like, I mean, why would anybody think this game was good? I mean, really? Like, why are we assuming that it was this great game? HOTS was fun? No, it wasn't. If it was fun, more people would have played it. Guys, I understand it's popular to say, like, oh, I like this game that's not popular anymore. No, there's a reason why they stopped playing. They stopped promoting it because nobody played the game because it wasn't fun.
These examples of the current AAA publishing cull reflect a deep-rooted fear to engage with anything new and original. Publishers perhaps more risk-averse than ever to stray out of their established IP safety bars. But even well-known IP that could be worth millions in sales and revenue is being left to rot. Despite owning Infamous, Jak and Daxter,
Please say Killzone.
Killzone, Resistance.
Yes! So fucking true. I know!
And Sly Cooper, to name a few entries in PlayStation's sprawling dormant library, Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki recently claimed the company lacks enough original IP to consolidate itself as a true gaming powerhouse.
It's fucking so stupid. This is the second game. I had this one.
You talking to him.
What Totoki may mean is that Sony's older catalog of library IP does not fit the mold of what every publisher has been mindlessly chasing for the better part of the...
See, like, Killzone should be the American version of Stalker. It should be, like, in between Stalker and Space Marine 2. Killzone was great, by the way. Yeah, that's where it should be. And it's just not there. Killzone's trash. It was really fun back whenever it came out. It was like 2005, something like that.
Decade. The next big live service money printer.
Yeah. I never played
It's
this.
difficult to imagine much
played
fanfare
this.
for a Sly Cooper reboot where Bentley and Murray are purchased to play, grand heists or season pass bonuses, and worlds are delivered half-baked instead of fully formed. It's undeniable that on some level the video game market has changed forever because of this live service model. New video games don't just have to compete with new rivals, but somehow find space in an increasingly crowded...
Bullshit. Dragon Age. Even though this game didn't sell well. Armored Core 6. Let's see. What else do we have? I've uninstalled a lot of games. Dragon's Dogma 2. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. They had a couple of updates and they stopped. What else do we have? Elden Ring. Metaphor. There's another one. Yeah, Metaphor right there. So, it's just bullshit. This idea that every game has to be live service, just total fucking bullshit.
crowded market dominated by decade-old titles like Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto Online.
Because
games which will continue
you
to
want to
hold...
know why Fortnite is so popular? It's because it plays flawlessly. It is such a good game to play. It's good in the way that classic WoW is good.
higher player counts than many of the best sellers of the last few years. But live service titles require investment of not just money, but also time to find their audience, neither of which was afforded to Firewalk Studios' Concord. The crew of Concord's North Star will never fly again. The recent fate of Concord's Firewalk Studios serves as a microcosm for the increasingly bleak outlook for the next few years in video game development.
I feel like a lot of these big gaming publications and gaming channels don't want to address the elephant in the room, which were the elephants in the character selection screen on Concord. No one wants to play, like, a mix between, I don't know, like somebody on My 600-Pound Life and Doom Guy. They don't want to do that. Nobody wants to play that. Like, it wasn't appealing at all. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but like, it's just not gonna, like, it's just that nobody wanted this. Nobody asked for this, and so a 600-pound Doom Guy, yeah, exactly, right. And when these studios keep making games that have, and I'm sorry, but like, I know I talk about this a lot. I'm sure people are kind of annoyed by it. But like, if I see like some kind of weird like identity politics shit in a game, my probability of wanting to play that game goes down by a lot. And it's not even because of the identity politics. It's about the fact that I'm good at recognizing patterns. And I've seen patterns happen a lot where it's, oh, this game is like this. It has this feature. That means it's going to have a bunch of other garbage too. That's it. That's their focus. Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to see that in a game. I think that's weird. It's exhausting. Yeah, it's fucking weird. And so like the studios keep doing this. And like, I don't know how you can look at the releases of these games and the entire media space collectively saying, not collectively, obviously there's people disagree, right? But people saying like, we don't want these games with like these like weird modern social issues attached to them. People have been begging, please stop making identity politics part of your video game. Please stop doing it. And they don't stop doing it, and people don't buy the games. It's that simple. It's the same with movies and TVs. Yeah, people aren't buying them. And that's the reason why you have these foreign developers that are doing so well. Yeah, police up with body type A and B. Only happens with AAA stuff? Yeah, well, that's why AAA is the ones that are making people that are losing money. When do you think they'll wake up? They won't. They're going to have to get fired and the studios will have to get shut down because you can't get rid of these people. And so it's like an infection. Like when you get infected with something like this, you just have to cut off the entire arm. That's it. They said they're not going to stop no matter the costs. Well, I mean, they're going to say that until it costs too much. But either way, that's what happens. And I think that's a huge reason. I mean, like, yeah, Concord was a bad game, sure. But it was also, like, if you look at the initial reception of the game, if you read the comments, everybody was, like, super negative about it. It's the same thing with Dragon Age. And, like, at a certain point, you can't just pretend that having this massive, overwhelming consumer sentiment doesn't matter. It fucking matters. It obviously fucking matters. Of course it matters.
Concord was Firewalk's first game, its baby in many ways. An 8-year development bolstered by a Sony acquisition and a reported cash injection of $200+ million. PlayStation reportedly believed it had the next Star Wars-esque franchise on its hands.
Yeah, they did.
But the game struggled significantly across both its beta testing period and launch, and was soon completely shut down by Sony just weeks after it was released.
It gave everybody their
Firewalk
money
closed
back.
for business shortly thereafter.
Yep.
Concord's downfall happened faster than any other failed game of the live service era.
Don't joke about something like this.
Just a decade earlier, though,
I feel like that happened with a couple of other live service games recently, but it wasn't really that bad. Like Concord, I feel like was the big one.
a similar disaster was plaguing Blizzard's Diablo 3. The crippling Error 37 message made the game unplayable, and fans worldwide decreed the absolute failure to launch. Soon after, the game's real money auction house left players with a foul taste in their mouth that Diablo 3's reputation was roasting in the fires. Instead of abandoning it, Blizzard repaired the game, removed the auction house, and then fundamentally upgraded and evolved it to Diablo 3 2.0 with its Reaper of Souls expansion, finally cementing its comeback as a brilliant game. It's a similar...
Wrong. The reason why Diablo 3 wasn't very good at launch is because the game was completely unbalanced. That's really the reason. There's not a lot to it. And they put no effort into balancing and making the end game content for the game good. The guy that was like the person who made the game, like one of the directors, like what he went and said is he said, we made the game really hard. So what we did is we just doubled all of the numbers. Like, okay. So, and then because I beat Inferno before it got nerfed. I did. Did not beat it on hardcore like Caparian did, but I did beat it. It was totally broken garbage. There was desyncing issues. The game just functionally did not play well. And this is especially true with every other act besides Act 1. Because Act 1 was in the Diablo 3 beta, and none of the other acts were tested at all. So you would go through Act 1, and it was this flawless, great experience. And then the moment that you go into Act 2, you would have to be dodging grenades that spawned off screen, and then you would have to be dodging wasps that were invisible. It was just total garbage.
Story to what we saw with CD Projekt Red's hard-fought battle to win Cyberpunk 2077 fans back after a disastrous launch. If Concord's alleged $200+ million budget had been lowered and the project direction refocused as a spark for a new universe rather than a big bang, it doesn't seem hard to believe that it could have found an audience with some Blizzard or CDPR-like shepherding from Sony. Many projects akin to Concord could be the medium-sized successes they deserve to be if not for the financial corners these publishers find themselves painted into.
Endless rage!
And really, maybe some publishers should consider steering clear of these financial quarters entirely. Gamers are beginning to wane interest in these monolithic projects. You need only look at a top-rated games of 2024 list, while 2023's award lists were littered with...
It's because Baldur's Gate 3 was a good game and it didn't... Almost every single one of the games that didn't do well had some form of messaging that a lot of people didn't like. Like, if you look at Dragon Age, if you look at Concord... If you look at, I feel like those are probably the two biggest ones, right? Baldur's Gate 3 was in early access forever. Yeah, it was. And so Baldur's Gate 3 had a message. Well, Baldur's Gate 3 let you do whatever you wanted, right? That's really it. Yeah, oh yeah, Suicide Squad, Justice League, Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, exactly. All of these games, in my opinion, were infected with unrelatable, weird social messaging that an average person wouldn't be able to appreciate or like. I think that's really the problem. It's a huge thing. And it's like, I don't see how you can, like, you have all of these points and they're making this perfect line, but you won't draw the line. You won't say, wow, what do all of these games have in common? People are more pissed about Batman? Yeah, sure.
AAA titles from 500-strong studios, 2024 show a revitalized hunger for a smaller, more independent spirit.
Yeah.
Arcade machine throwback UFO 50, the Metroidvania-esque Animal Well, poker roguelite Balatro, and text-based pixel art adventure The Crimson Diamond are just some of the games you'll see appearing again and again on these lists. Despite their numerous differences, they share one thing in common: a smaller, more refined experience that recalls earlier eras of gaming where marriages of mechanics and storytelling were key through technological craftiness, rather than literal—
I think this is actually true too, where a lot of games, the scope of them becomes so large that they just collapse under their own weight, basically. If Elgar was close to Baldur's Gate 3, you could be able to call out Tash for her bullshit. Well, what you would have been able to do is you'd be able to kill her. The thing is that a lot of these games don't want to tell stories that have shades of gray because they're afraid of you rooting for the villain. That's the issue.
country-sized game worlds. The nostalgia they create for older video game generations are central to the heart of their creation. They just want you to pick them up and have a good time. The slow but increasingly clear pivot of video game audiences to a potential indie renaissance is a clear message to publishers that if everything is bigger and bolder, who possibly has the time and energy to play more than 1 or 2 games each year?
And that's also the big issue too, especially with live service games, is that the amount of time that you need to invest to maintain relevance in a live service game is like a small job. It's like you have to spend maybe 5 to 10 hours a day to maintain relevance and keep up with live service games. And because of that, guess what? A lot of people don't want to do it. Because like you're already invested. Like this is one of the big problems that I think a lot of gacha games have now, is that basically every gacha game is designed the exact same. And they all require a certain amount of time in order to do dailies and stuff like that. You can't play at your own pace. Yeah, exactly, right? You're basically on a conveyor belt whenever you play live service games where you can't get too far behind and you can't get too far ahead. So it's not like, because a lot of people, the fact isn't that like in a normal person's life, they generally don't have exactly 45 minutes to play a video game every day. They have 4 to 5 minutes to play a video game, and then they have 4 to 5 hours on the weekend, maybe. So you have, it's not like people are going to want to log in to dedicate the same 15 minutes a day every single day in, right? Like, for example, like even I'm like this. There'll be days where I don't play any games, and there'll be other days where I play video games for 8 hours. And that's real life, right? And so when you have these live service games that are built around these like retention mechanisms that keep you logging in every day, what you do is the actual casual players that play them, they can't get ahead on the days that they have off, and they fall behind on the days that they can't play. And so you're losing people from both sides. And I think also like there's so many of them now competing for your same attention and money that it's kind of like streaming services, where it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with streaming services anymore because there's so many of them.
I'll tell you the definition of insanity.
That's not to undercut the difficulty in getting those independent titles made, mind you. UFO 50's Mossmouth LLC team consisted of 6 developers working over many years, while both Animal Well and The Crimson Diamond share similar stories of being crafted by solo developers, Billy Basso and Julia Minamata respectively, over several years.
Yeah.
Even a smash hit like Lethal Company started life as a one-man band developer, Zeekers, learning to develop games on Roblox before expanding his knowledge. All of these developers put everything they had over several years of their lives into creating these games, not in pursuit of money, but because of a passion. And this is why they don't need humongous worlds or 300 plus side quests to tick off. These games all feel like lean enjoyment machines.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of games that are like that. And I feel like that mouthwashing game is another really great example for it, is that graphics don't matter, style matters. Like the style of mouthwashing, the graphical style of it, like especially when you were pointing the gun at that guy at the end of it, absolute fucking cinema. Or like him dancing in front of that thing, or like there were a couple of other moments where it was just like the style of the game was incredible. So why is it a problem? Like, why do we keep focusing on having like real known actors play characters in video games? Like, is this really, like, outside of a Kojima game, like, is this really anything that people care about? No, nobody gives a shit about this. Metaphor graphics are really bad, but style is overbearing. Yeah, well, Metaphor has, like, a weird dichotomy because all of its, like, hand-drawn art is, in my opinion, some of the best art that there is. It's fucking phenomenal. I love it. But the actual in-game graphics are fucking terrible. Yeah, like in terms of like the fidelity, it's a lot like Elden Ring. It's like From Software. Yeah, exactly, right?
It feels like the top end of the video game industry is currently faced with two paths to choose from. The first is the status quo. It can continue to engorge on bigger budgets with impossibly open yet incredibly empty worlds filled with 80+ hours of content, about 10 of which have any meaning to its players, and or hopelessly pursue the live service train which left the station over 5 years ago with late passengers wondering why the money isn't rolling in anymore. These billion-dollar gambles could pay off, but it's seeming less and less likely every day. Conversely, companies could opt for a second path and take a page out of Julia Minamata, Billy Basso, and Zeeker's books, a wider breadth of projects, smaller in scope and scale, with a refined focus on gameplay mechanics, and perhaps a return to older styles of video games long dormant. Projects were developed—
I don't think that that's even what it is either, because like Dragon's Dogma 2 and Elden Ring and like a lot of games, like it's not like the new style of games are bad, it's just that the new games are bad. Like, because all of these issues, like, think about what this guy's saying. Is Nintendo having this problem with Legend of Zelda? No. No, they're not. I mean, these are all problems that are coming from people that are like just Western studios. These are all Western studio problems. Nintendo always make money? Yeah.
Developers aren't afraid to make weirder choices and take some unexpected left turns lest they crash their $400 million ship into a mixed to decent reception and lackluster sales. Maybe studios, and more importantly publishers and shareholders, can remember that we used to play video games because they were fun, not because of their bigger than last year maps carpeted by denser, higher resolution grass that you walk across to finish another piece of side content that pushes you just one digit closer to that 100% completion.
This wasn't—
Yeah, I think that's a huge issue. A lot of people are tired of, completionism mechanics being put in. Concord was Sony. Yeah, Concord was a big mistake. But I also think that Concord was Sony making a game for Western audiences. I think that's what happened. And also, Sony owned the studio, but the studio that made it was a Western studio.
plan.
No, it just wasn't the one we started with.
Speaking of which, congratulations, you've almost 100% of this video. What do you think needs changing in the games industry? Do you want bigger games or more games? Sound off in the comments below, and for everything gaming, you are already in the right place. IGN.
I think that another really big toxic thing that gamers have done is they've correlated the quality of a game to the amount of hours that they spend in the game, and the value of the game to the amount of hours they spend in the game. And I don't think that's a good way to look at it. There are a lot of games that I've spent very few hours in, and it was some of the best time that I've ever had. But there are other games that I've spent a lot of hours in, and it wasn't really that great. And so it's because of COVID? Well, maybe, right? But like, I think that this has always been the way that people have seen things. So there's been games that I've played a lot. I put a lot of hours in, but the game was pretty much dog shit. And so does that really mean that, like, did I have more of a good time with Starfield, or did I have a better time with Undertale? I had a better time with Undertale, even though I only played it for 6 hours. So that's what I think. And I feel like also, again, this problem is manifest in Western game studios way more than Eastern game studios. Shadow of the Colossus is a 4 to 6 hour game. It's amazing. Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but I'm not surprised. You're telling me $300 million mediocre games devoid of risk and bloated with microtransactions aren't a sustainable business model? Madness. Yeah, crazy. Imagine that. And it's not AAA bubble, it has to burst. It's a live service bubble. No, it's the AAA bubble. It's the games have too much money. This is also the issue, is that games are the cost of games is going up like this, and then the amount of money that players will spend on games is like this. So as the costs go up exponentially, players still don't even want to spend $70 for a video game. Think about it. Think about how many things in 2005, because this is 2005, 2006, whenever the 360 came out and they moved up to $30 games or $60 games, excuse me. How many things that you bought in 2006 or 7 are the same price now? Basically fucking nothing. Nothing is. And it's because gamers just don't have that much disposable income and they don't want to spend that much money, right? So what's happened is that these developers have to find other ways to make money, and the way they do that is by selling early access to the game. They do it by having microtransactions in the game. And this would have happened as a natural outcome of a publicly traded company, but at the same time, the fact that gamers are unwilling to spend more money accelerated it. I'm spending $80, $90 on a new game before taxes. Well, I don't know. I mean, you're buying the deluxe edition then, right? Because like I bought video games recently and they're $60 mainly. Like most video games are $60. But I do think this is a very good video. And I also think that, again, a lot of companies and like I think IGN and a lot of other platforms, they don't really want to address the elephant in the room, which is the fact that a lot of the messaging of this games are very overt and they alienate gamers. But I don't think that they want to acknowledge that. And until they are willing to acknowledge it and say like, listen, like these are games made for guys, we have to make them appeal to guys, you're just going to keep losing.